our show is it's going to be unique.
You are what you do. You can say any amount of things that you want to say, but what you do is what everybody sees.
People are like, oh, I'm just going to JV it. Like, it's just JV it. Like, what the hell is that mean?
I cannot tell you how excited I am to hang out with you guys today, so thank you so much.
Well, then that end buyer could come back and say, well, I didn't fully understand that it was subject to.
That's not a thing. Like, the SEC has thought of all of these things. They've been here since 1932.
And you can do what you want with your property.
Buyers have time, they have negotiating power, they have options.
Oh my gosh, I am blown away by your inexperience, and they've been in business 20 years.
And that includes things other people put on your property, right? It's your property to be okay. Suddenly, cousin Jimmy's in a lawsuit.
A novation is replacing one contract or one obligation with another.
Out with the old, in with the new.
Yes.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today, our topic is strategies for investing in manufactured homes. I'm Andy Fowler, and I'm here with Sean St. Clair. If you're new to the show, make sure to like our channels. You can find us on Facebook, X, and YouTube at the handle @InRem Podcast. That's @InRem Podcast. Also, I want you to go to Spotify, Apple, or any other podcast platform. You can download an audio version of the podcast. The easiest way to listen to our podcast. Go there, leave us a review. We'd appreciate it a ton. With that, we're going to go to Sean, who has our legal update.
Thank you, Andy. So our legal update today is it is used for purposes of conveying property where the owner has passed away, or that was held by a trust, and now it's time to distribute the property to the beneficiary of the trust. So the deed of distribution is prepared in two circumstances. So the first circumstance, it's prepared where you have a probate. And so you have a situation where somebody's passed away, and they've passed away either with a will or without a will. Either way, a probate will have to be opened. A lot of people get confused and think, well, if you have a will, you don't need probate. No, a will does require probate. So even if you have a will, you have to have a probate. So you open probate, a personal representative, sometimes called an executor, is appointed, and they then are responsible for distributing assets. And when there's real estate and that piece of real estate is going to be distributed out of the estate to a beneficiary, that will be done not by warranty deed, but by a deed of distribution. Now, if let's say the estate isn't going to distribute the property to a beneficiary, but they're going to sell it to a third party, and then of course the cash proceeds from the sale come into the estate and become an asset of the estate, and then the cash is distributed to the beneficiaries. In that case, it wouldn't be a deed of distribution. It would be by warranty deed, because that is a sale. So it signifies that there's been a sale of the property. Versus a deed of distribution signifies that, hey, this is an estate and we're distributing the property out of the estate to the beneficiaries. A deed of distribution is also used, like I said before, in the trust context. So in the trust context, you have a trustee or a successor trustee that is in control of the trust, in control of the trust assets. And when it comes time for a distribution of those assets to be made, and the distribution involves real estate, then the real estate is distributed out to the beneficiaries by a deed of distribution. And the same for the probate context. If trust holds real estate and the trust is going to sell to a third party buyer, that'll be done by a warranty deed, because that's going to signify a sale of the property. Versus a deed of distribution, once again, signifies that it's going to the beneficiaries of the trust. That way, in anyone reviewing the deed, reviewing the records of the property, will see that this property was basically received generally by inheritance, although with trust, there could be other reasons why you would do a deed of distribution even prior to somebody passing away. but it basically signifies that it's being distributed either from an estate or a trust. So a deed of distribution signifies a distribution from an estate or a trust, and it is to be used when you're distributing and doing basically conveyances on behalf of an estate or a trust to the beneficiaries of either an estate or a trust.
All right. Thank you, Sean, for the legal update. Reminder for the viewers, every Tuesday, 2:00 p.m. Arizona time, we host the Creative Finance Collective. Make sure to join us for that. It is an event that can be watched after the fact, certainly, but it is an event that is designed for live viewership and interaction. So what is the Creative Finance Collective? That is an opportunity for lawyers and professionals in the space that focus on the transactional side of creative finance. It's a chance for us to get together to discuss what we're seeing in our respective states, in our respective jurisdictions, talk about what we're seeing go right and go wrong, and work through it. But it's an enormous opportunity for you, the viewer, to ask questions. We're there captive to you, answering questions for the hour. So make sure to join us every Tuesday, 2:00 p.m. Come with your questions, and we'll work through creative finance issues. All right, so let's move to our topic today. Today we're talking about real estate investing, specifically in the area of manufactured homes. So with us to discuss that topic is our guest, Dan McBrinn. Dan, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Super excited to talk to the audience here and dive into the, I guess, kind of space that I've been niching down in for the past couple of years. So
yeah, we're super excited to have you. So Dan, tell our audience a little bit about yourself. What your focus in real estate investing and how you got into doing what you do.
Yeah. So I'm originally from New York, the Rockland County area specifically. I moved out to Arizona about 6 years ago, and I've been in the wholesaling investing space for about 5 years now. I started off just kind of doing your regular wholesaling, going direct to seller. I've done over about 500 deals so far in the past 5 years. I run a pretty big wholesale operation here. My first ever deal, funny enough, was actually a mobile home in Mesa. Oddly enough, because I do a ton of them now. But my main focus now is doing regular direct to seller wholesaling. I'm flipping about 10 to 12 mobile homes a month right now. I've acquired some rental properties over the past couple of years, doing some private money lending, and I'm actually working a lot with Brian and Dustin right now, who are partners of your guys' firm, and we're diving a lot deep into distressed titles as well, figuring out and kind of unwinding and untangling those messy situations. So everything I do now is centrally located to everything in the residential space, but specifically, I'm happy to cover the mobile home investing and everything that I've been up to with that.
So, I've always thought mobile home, manufactured home, it from the legal side of things is a really interesting topic because much of the time we're blending two areas of the law. We're talking about real estate, which is the land that it sits on, but we're also oftentimes talking about personal property unless certain things have happened because manufactured homes, mobile homes carry a form of title like a vehicle typically. So, how the interaction of those two things is always kind of an interesting scenario to work through as an attorney. But as an investor, let's kind of lay the groundwork for the listener here so they have an idea about really what we're talking about. But how do you define what is a manufactured home, or use the term mobile home? Break that down for us.
Yeah. So a mobile home in and of itself is personal property. So if that's when you do not have it affixed to the land yet. So if we're talking just about what a mobile home is, if I go and go to a dealer and purchase a mobile home, he's going to hand me a title to that mobile home. And then I'm going to go and register that the same way that I'm going to register a car title. So I'm going to go to the DMV, and all the titles and the sales are processed through the DMV. And not until you surrender that title and affix it to the land does it become real property. which is what I specialize in, is mobile homes that are actual real property. So that is going to be your number one thing, is what is called the affidavit of a fixture, where you affix it to the land, combining your mobile home and your land into one thing. Because if you don't have your property affixed, you're paying separate personal property taxes, and you're paying separate real estate taxes.
So if you're looking, so it sounds like one of the ways that you could theoretically, and you talked about flipping mobile homes, one of the ways you could theoretically do this is treat it like a vehicle, where you're looking for used vehicles just to flip. But it sounds like your focus is you like to find one that's packaged with the land, so you're moving both simultaneously. Is that right?
Yes, and some investors do purchase mobiles just with the title. However, the intricacies with that is going to be, you're now purchasing mobile homes probably located in a park where you might have age restrictions. It's going to be 55 plus. You may have restrictions to actually purchasing it. So that park might have a first right of refusal, an option to buy it. Some parks may give you a difficult time when you're trying to purchase it too. So where I operate in is, what I like to call more the Wild West or no man's land. I'm going after owned mobiles on owned land with no HOA, neighbors all minding their own business, and everyone's keeping to themselves. Where if you try to target just the mobile home itself, you're going to have to go to someone who's probably in a park. Because if you're not in a park, you're going to 9 times out of 10 have that mobile affixed to the land.
So let's start at the beginning, because I think a lot of our audience would kind of want to know this. I'm not sure that it's a great investment strategy per se, but let's just say that somebody goes and they buy vacant land. Yep. And they're like, it would be great to put a mobile home on this land. So what does that process look like? For some reason, I'm not seeing like a very simple thing, but maybe it is. So what would somebody do to basically be able to put a mobile home on vacant land that they own?
Yeah. So number one is, if you had, you're going to have to go to a mobile home dealer. So what that process looks like, I'm off of Main Street in Mesa, and there's a ton of mobile home dealers off of Main Street. So if I wanted to get a mobile home moved to a piece of vacant land, number one is buying the real property, buying the vacant piece of land. And step two is I would go to the mobile home dealer. I'd say I'm interested in a, Cavco double wide or something like that, see what they have available. A lot of these dealers are very backed up also with getting new mobile homes. So you kind of can't really control the timeline as much as if you were to purchase one and fix one up. You're more reliant upon, at the end of the day, it's a double-edged sword. Do I want to be reliant upon contractors fixing up the property, or do I want to be reliant upon a dealer that's going to take forever to reach out to the manufacturer, get the mobile home in, send it to you? So step one is getting to the dealer. The dealer, let's say, for example, the mobile home was $100,000. He'd probably ask me for a percentage down. So I'd give him a deposit. We'd open up a regular escrow account with that mobile home. And then I would be in the queue to essentially get that mobile home. And then getting the mobile home, I'd be buying the mobile home itself. And I'd also be buying or paying for the cost to move and set up the mobile home to the utilities, which is very costly. And the difference between buying a single wide and a double wide is you're essentially buying 2 mobile homes. So I would be paying a higher cost, and that mobile home would be on 2 18-wheelers as opposed to 1 18-wheeler truck, which is more cost, more time, more insurance, and more money.
Now, if the vacant land is not improved really at all, before you can even deliver that home, I would think that there has to be some level of site improvements, correct?
Yep. Well, you're going to have to make sure your utilities is there. So you'll have to work with SRP or APS and make sure those are readily available. your water. You're going to need to make sure, obviously, it's excavated correctly. You can't have, a hill and then try to put your mobile home angled up on top of it. So, you are going through a more formal process with permits and making sure whatever site improvements are needed via utilities, also your sewer. So you'd have to get that linked up to your sewer. I deal with a lot of septic tanks. So oftentimes, before you even buy your vacant piece of land, you got to make sure that that land passes a percolation test. And a percolation test is the actual, essentially you're testing the soil to make sure that, hey, I can actually install a septic tank underground, and that works also. Because as you know, in Arizona, the ground is hard as a rock. I don't know if you ever tried to dig a little hole in your backyard, but I can't go past a couple inches to do it. So
I would imagine it seems like the reason why you suggest, especially if you're starting from scratch, using or getting a dealer involved. And I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming, like cars, you've got brand new dealerships and you've got those they'll sell maybe used mobile homes or used manufactured homes. So there's a variety probably of different ways to deal in this, but the dealer provides at a premium, obviously, the value add of basically taking care of checking and building in the cost to move and all the side improvements. Is that basically kind of what you'd expect from the dealer?
that's correct. I'm not sure about site improvements. Don't quote me on that. Some dealers are different, but mostly that would probably be on the buyer to have your site ready. And then the dealer will take care of lining up with the manufacturer, getting it all ready. But, it's hard to capture a lot of value and actually get, in my experience, get a better deal as opposed to going direct to seller when it's already real property, because we target that distress as wholesalers. We target those problems, and there's no problems that a dealer is going to have, or the dealer's not going to want to sell me their mobile home at 50 to 60 cents on the dollar.
Sure. So walk us through. So somebody's decided to go through this, whether they've done it all on their own, whether they've used a dealer, they've brought the mobile home onto their property, they've got it all installed. But at that point, you've got, as you mentioned before, you've got real estate and you've got personal property, kind of a combination of both. What needs to happen next? I know you probably run into this when you're looking for an investment properties, but this process of combining the two to make it all one thing, what does that process look like?
Yep. So in a nutshell, the actual form is called your affidavit of a fixture. So when you have your land already secured and you bring your mobile over, that mobile home dealer is going to give you the title to that mobile home, and you then take that title and you surrender it to the DMV, and now your mobile home and real land all become one property. So it's simply done through a form of what's called the affidavit of a fixture. And then the affidavit of a fixture is then recorded against the land, making it one. And now that gives the lender the security that they need. So God forbid, if they lent you money on the deal, you're not just going to go and get an 18-wheeler and tow it away.
Well, my understanding is at some point, and I don't remember if it's in the fixture process or the unaffixing process, but I believe there's some type of inspection that needs to be done through the MVD with respect to the property. Is that correct?
If you are unaffixing it, but for a regular affixture, it's simply, I have a guy that there's a ton of these third-party DMVs that if you have the title, you can just simply hire them for $100 to $200 and they just affix it. Getting like a level 1 or level 2 or 3 inspection when you have to get like local law enforcement involved is one, either you're unaffixing it, or two, maybe doing a bonded title process, which is, I call the bonded title process kind of your quiet title for the
Mhm.
car is what I call that.
Yeah, a lot simpler, but yes, it's
Yeah.
they don't give them tons of time to respond, and it's actually a
Correct.
pretty simple process. But okay, so you don't need an inspection when you're fixing it. You just need the form. You probably need to pay some money to the MVD.
Yep.
You record, and then at that point, it becomes part of the real estate. Correct?
Yep. And now you can get depending on the year build of the mobile home, now you can get your FHA, you can get your conventional, and you can get your VA financing on it.
Now, you mentioned that when you do get that financing, and now that it's part of the land, you can't just like up and move it. But the
No.
character of the home is still the same, right? In theory,
In theory.
it's just as movable as it was before it was affixed. And an 18-wheeler could come and pick it up and take it away. But why would somebody be limited with an affidavit of a fixture as opposed to having it unaffixed with the moving process?
Well, if I went to a moving company, they would have to pull permits and obviously dig into the information of the property. And if they saw that there was a lender that had money lent on it and there wasn't a fixture and it was real property, they would never touch that thing because they'd have so much liability for themselves to move something that is affixed to the land, let alone a lender that has money secured against it. So maybe if you hired your Joe Schmo or long lost cousin to do it, but you might find yourself in a lot of legal trouble and liability if that was the case.
So for anybody who's gone through this process or that was thinking of going through the process and they've taken the steps, they've affixed the manufactured home or mobile home to the property, but maybe 10 years down the line, they want to upgrade, they want to do something else, they want to sell. It sounds like, is there a process for undoing the fixture because maybe I like my land, I just want to change the mobile home? Can that be undone?
Yeah, you can unaffix it if you wanted to. Let's say you loved your mobile home and you somehow didn't put so much wear and tear on it in 10 years, which is very, very unlikely. But you could undo the process through the DMV, given that your property is free and clear from any encumbrances and liens. And if I still had a loan secured against that, a 30-year loan, within 10 years, I could not unaffix that property.
Now, I would imagine as an investor who is looking for manufactured mobile home deals, you've run into this, but on occasion, I'm sure Sean's run into this as well. On occasion, I've dealt with legal issues where we ran into a title problem, and it's because people were conveying the real estate for years, sometimes down from person to person, and all of a sudden, somebody realizes that the mobile home's not affixed to the property. So
Yeah.
they've been conveying the land, but title to the mobile home never changed hands. Always fun to fix. Is that something you've run into?
Oh yeah, all the time. And then on top of that, it's actually still in the name of the owners that we got it from 5 previous owners ago. Oh, and on top of it, they actually are deceased.
Yeah, they're
So-
gone.
Right. Yes.
Yep. So that's then we go down the rabbit hole of the bonded title process usually, which, there's a break in the chain of title. We give notices, like I said to Sean there, similar to a quiet title process, but now all these breaks in the chain of titles. I now have to go back and unwind these and fix these issues. Get affidavits signed from previous owners. People conveying, hey, I don't have a claim on it. There's no lenders that have a claim on it. Writing out certified mail, certified notices. So just kind of crossing your T's and dotting your I's and going back to the DMV and saying, hey, this property is free and clear from all encumbrances. There's no one that has an interest. I did publications in the newspapers. I sent certified mail to possible related interested parties, and no one has came and stated their claim that they have interest in this.
So
It's not a fun process at all.
Yeah. So what I was going to ask you as an investor, when you see this happen, is this something you run for the hills on, or is this like, hell, this is an opportunity? This is there's going to be, yes, it's going to take some elbow grease to fix this thing, but this might provide an extraordinary financial opportunity, or you just wait and see what kind of deal you're given.
Yeah, I mean everything. If there's more problems, there's more opportunity. That's the way I look at it. But the numbers have to make sense, and educating the sellers on why that is and the process that happens. I know some lenders will close. Actually, what I have done in the past is just to, let's say I have a good deal secured and I don't want to have this linger on for 3 to 6 months. I'll close on the property, and let's say I'm doing a $100,000 deal. I'll close on the property, get the seller paid out somewhere between 70 to 80 grand, and then I'll do like a $20,000 to $30,000 holdback, and that will help me secure that. Hey, if I go through the bonded title process, and let's say there's back taxes that were never paid, let's say Joe Schmo comes out of the woodworks and say that he has a loan for 10 grand against the property, I can use those holdback funds and continue to pay off whatever other parties are possibly coming to state a claim against it.
So when you're focusing, we'll start to kind of move on properties, investment strategies that you like to work with, but let's kind of start here. Is the opportunity of finding land and finding a separate manufactured home that you think is going to work well ever kind of a lane you try to go down, or is there just too many, expensive costs and having to move everything to get it there?
Yeah, in my opinion, you can find a better deal where everything is already in place for you because at the end of the day, you're adding more steps to the process. If I'm trying to go and find the land, move a mobile, do this, and then fix up the mobile, there's more things that I have to account for, and there's more costs and definitely more variables that will go into that, as opposed to if I just got a mobile home where it's already affixed, it's the year build that I want, it's under a certain amount of renovation costs that I want, then that's a better deal for me because I'm going to be able to get cashed out on that a lot quicker than going down a rabbit hole of all these other nuances.
So when you're looking to buy land with a manufactured home on it, and it's affixed, I mean, it's really just another kind of real estate transaction. There's nothing magical about it. However, you do have a manufactured home as opposed to, a single family residence or a home that's, custom built or built by a builder and permanently placed onto the property. From an inspection standpoint, are there things that somebody buying a manufactured home would want to look for that would be different than what you would do under a regular home inspection?
Yeah, I mean, you have all your normal stuff, your roof, your AC, your plumbing, electrical, all things that you want to make sure in order. A couple other things that are going to be part of your underwriting process. Like I said earlier, we deal with a lot of septic tanks. So for the viewers that don't know what a septic tank is, it's instead of your waste, from your bathrooms and toilets going down into your drain line and going off into a city kind of source, there's actually a tank on the property that all this waste drains into and then decomposes. So you need to make sure you get a septic inspection from a licensed professional, because the tank itself in the ground, maybe it has roots going through it, maybe it corroded over time. There's a lot of things that can happen when you have your septic tank in the ground. So you need to make sure that those are in proper working order. Number two is obviously going to be your fixture. You're going to want to make sure that's affixed and the correct mobile is on that land. And then there's another form, which is your tie downs, it's called. and a lot of FHA lenders will want this. And that's the tie downs are essentially more security. An engineer goes under the mobile home and makes sure all the jacks and everything is leveled out, and he secures those all together, and that gives your lender more security on the property. And then besides those three particular things, everything else is going to be your more normal kind of inspections with the properties.
Well, let's talk about a few of those items. So one, just so that our listeners know, whether it's a mobile home with a septic or a permanent structure with a septic, you have to have a passing grade within 6 months by a licensed inspector within 6 months of closing, or it doesn't close. It's not a valid conveyance in Arizona. So your title companies won't close those transactions. But when you talk about making sure that the manufactured home on the property is the one that's supposed to be there, how do you go about doing that?
To make sure that the right mobile is on the land? Well, you're going to want to look at your fixture, and your fixture is actually going to have VIN numbers and certain data on it, essentially. And on the back of every mobile home, there's going to be a little plate, kind of like your license plate on your car. It's usually located on the bottom left or bottom right of the mobile home. There's a plate, so I can verify that my affidavit of a fixture has the same data, VIN numbers, whatnot, as the plate that's on the mobile home. And then I can verify that, hey, those two things match. So that's the correct mobile home. It's the correct year build. And that there's not some random mobile home that somehow got swapped at one point. And I know that that's exactly what I'm buying.
And where do you get this? You've said it's recorded, but where do you come up with the affidavit of fixture? How do you get your hands on it so you can do that, cross-referencing?
That is always going to be on somewhere under the Schedule B of your title commitments. Okay. So it's going to say, hey, here's all these things that we're going to have for the requirements before you convey title, and here's any recordings done against the property, and that's where the affidavit of a fixture is. And there's a link usually, so I click the link, takes me to another screen, and that'll have my one-page form of my affidavit of a fixture, which is going to have the year, make, and model of the mobile home. It'll also say like Cavco or something on the affidavit of a fixture. And let's say I go to the mobile home, and the mobile home itself says Cavco on the side somewhere. Hey, I know that I have the right mobile home here.
Have you ever had a circumstance where you printed out the affidavit of a fixture and you went to the property and you lined it up to make sure that it matched and it didn't match?
I think I had a couple, but at that point, the mobile home was so worthless anyway, or we knew it was unsalvageable. So it didn't surprise me that, this mobile home that wasn't worth $1 also wasn't the proper mobile home that was affixed to the land. So at that point, it was kind of irrelevant to the sale. But luckily, knock on wood, one that is legitimate, good year build, I haven't had those issues yet.
So talk to us when you're going around, and you've kind of referred to this a couple different times. What is really kind of your dream find as an investor when we're talking about mobile homes?
Yeah. So I call it the Holy Grail. And that is usually a double wide on an acre, post 1980 year build, and it's in Apache Junction usually. So that is what I call the Holy Grail of at least what I do here in the East Valley. But anytime you have a double wide 1980 or newer on an acre, it's going to be that's going to be some of your best deals.
Now, why the acre? Is there just for those that are watching that aren't familiar with Apache Junction, you don't have an idea where that is, but that things are a little bit more spread out in Apache Junction. Is there kind of an expectation among buyers that there's a little bit more room in what they're dealing with?
There is some more room. folks out there love their toys, their boats, their storage units, their razors, all these types of things, and getting it on an acre of land is at a very affordable price too, is something that folks out there love. So it's just the sell of it is more what's appealing to the buyers, because you're getting an affordable product on a massive piece of land that, hey, I can put my storage units, I can put my boats, I can put my toys, I can maybe get a casita back there. So it has all the things that so many people desire at an affordable price.
Now, when you find a place, it sounds like a lot of the times, unless your dream home requires no fixing or improvements, but a lot of times it sounds like you're planning to do some improvements. The improvement process, is it similar to what any sort of person might expect from a normal residential property or home when it comes to permitting, when it comes to kind of the process you would normally have to go through to fix up, or are mobile homes, different? How does that differ in your experience?
Yeah. So besides those three things that I talked about earlier, which is verifying your affidavit of a fixture, getting your septic inspection, and getting your tie downs, everything else is going to be the same. I use a licensed contractor for everything. So we go the formal process with that. And he takes care of all permits, improvements. We redo just about everything in the mobile homes. One particular thing that you're probably always going to have to repair is the subfloor. So that's the flooring underneath your actual floor, because the mobile home itself is still elevated. You're not flush down to your foundation or concrete. So over time, that subfloor, it gets very wobbly, almost like a trampoline or soft spots, as we call it, because the mobile home is situated here and the ground is here. So when someone's stepping on that, it's a lot more susceptible to wear and tear. So that's something we're always replacing on these mobile homes, is the subfloor.
I would imagine kind of the cost that goes into that, and I'm guessing here, but I would think that a lot of the square footage on either a single wide or a double wide are pretty close. So you probably have a pretty good idea walking in there, knowing, okay, this is probably what we're going to spend right out of the box on the subfloor. It sounds like you kind of bake that into the cake,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Every property is anywhere from, at least a double wide, we spend anywhere from about 40 to 60,000 on improvements. That's where it lands 9 times out of 10. Single wides are smaller square footage. Usually a single wide is anywhere from 700 to 1,000 square feet. So those improvements may be closer to 30 to 40,000. But your double wide, which is always going to be about more than 1,200 square feet, so 1,200 to about 2,000 square feet, is going to be anywhere from about $40,000 to $60,000 of improvements.
So what is your disposition strategy on these? Is it primarily just fix and flip? Are you long-term hold on any of them where you rent them out? What do you do normally with these on the back end?
Most of them after acquired are either going to be wholesaled or flipped. So bought, renovated, and sold. On the long-term side of mobile, so I own like a 7-unit trailer park that I rent out, but those things take a beating. So mobile homes, over a long duration of time, the wear and tear is a lot more significant than a single family home. So in my investing strategy, in my opinion, I get quick money, whether that's wholesaling, fix and flipping from these mobile homes, and then I take my extra cash proceeds and I invest them into better, more sturdy long-term assets, which would be single family homes. I also do some private money lending. So those are things that I like to do longer term. But for buying a rental for a mobile home, your wear and tear is very bad. Your tenant quality is also very low because you're in more lower income areas. So you're more susceptible to issues that would occur, as opposed to getting a $400,000 single family home in a nicer part of Mesa or another area of Apache Junction.
So in the residential investor space, kind of the conventional space, creative finance is all the rage because a lot of people are sitting on 30-year fixed mortgages that are under 4 or 3%, and it just lends itself to buying subject to the existing loans. Is that a strategy that you've tried to pursue with sellers in the manufactured home space, or do the loans even lend themselves to it?
I have done a couple sub twos. Sub twos are actually good. So really, I'm doing one right now where the purchase price is super low. So my recommendation for if you're targeting creative finance mobile homes is to actually wrap those to an end buyer. So if I, instead of renting it, if I wrap it to someone, that means that hopefully the homeowner is going to take more care of it. There's not really any tax savings too much when your purchase price is so low anyway. So you're not really getting a ton of like depreciation. So if I were to go, the one I'm working on now, I took over a 3% loan, probably have an entry fee, which is what I paid the seller, cost of improvements, closing costs. So what I'm into the deal for is what we call our entry fee. My entry fee is about 40 to 50,000 on this. I will seek out a new retail buyer and get about $30,000 down, and then probably have about $20,000 left into the deal while getting that note spread payment. So whatever I am making the difference between what I pay the seller, their first loan at 3%, and then I create a new loan with the retail buyer anywhere from 8 to 12%, and I make that money in between.
So talk to me about advantages of this investment strategy. Are there advantages to this in your mind over just fix and flipping conventional, residential properties? What has caused you to kind of focus in this area?
Yeah, 1000%. So I always say that, wholesaling in a nutshell is really these three things. It's you're targeting leads that have high equity. So if a lead doesn't have high equity, now this is irrelevant to creative finance and all the sub two, but if you're really trying to make good, consistent income and get, large deals, every owner you deal with is going to have high equity. So bullet point 2 is that they're going to be an absentee owner. So whether they inherited it, it's rented out, 9 times out of 10, the renters in mobile homes are trashing the place. So once that mobile home is in need of improvements, that homeowner doesn't want to make the improvements to fix it up. So high equity, absentee owner, and my third point, it's blowing off my mind right now, is price point. Sorry, affordability. So every mobile home is at about 400K and below. So that's at your median price point or below. So almost every single mobile home, besides owner occupants, fits my 3 buckets of what I call a wholesale lead: high equity, absentee owners, and the price point is at the median home value and under. So inherently, every single lead I talk to is already fitting my wholesale avatar.
What's interesting about that is, a lot of folks, when we talk about affordability, have talked a lot. We've talked about it on the show of there being basically an affordability crisis, not just in the state of Arizona, but throughout the country in terms of just the cost of today's single family residence. And I wonder how often you're running into buyers as you're disposing of these that wouldn't have thought of themselves as being in the manufactured home marketplace, but given what's happened with affordability, that they found themselves there, and they're buyers in that space. Have you seen that?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, do I want to buy a condo for 300,000, have 700 square feet, an HOA Karen that's breathing down my neck because I didn't trim my hedges right outside or something? Or do I want a 1,600 square foot home on a 10,000 square foot lot with a backyard with no HOA? So the conditions it's more appealing for a buyer that I could get all of that for the same price I would as some condo in Phoenix and get, half of the land and half of the lot value and everything. So it's, in my opinion, it's a lot more appealing for someone out there, seeking a good property.
So talk to us about the mistakes. You've done enough of these. What are kind of the biggest pitfall areas that you see investors or see the possibility of investors making when trying to jump into this space?
Yeah, the biggest thing is, really like anything, it's your buy box. So mobile homes built prior to 1976 are not financeable. That was due to an electrical recall that happened. So in the prior years, a lot of these mobile homes were catching fire. So there was a massive electrical recall. So they stopped, all Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac stopped financing mobile homes that were built prior to 1976. So that's where you hear that rule. So investors buying properties prior to 1976, not accounting for that financeable rule, is where they can find themselves getting hurt. Number two, like anything, underestimating your renovation costs on the purchase and not verifying the information that I stated earlier, which is, hey, is that mobile home the one that matches on there via my affidavit of affixture? Is the mobile home even affixed? Verifying that and verify that, like Sean was saying earlier, that it's not owned by 5 previous owners ago and you have to do a bonded title process. So verifying that those key components are already there, or you have to make it a part of your buy box criteria. But it's all it's all relevant to the single family space. But there's a couple more nuances that go into your underwriting process, as they call it.
Yeah, it always seems to come down to the due diligence. No matter what real estate space you're in, usually the pitfalls involve not knowing what you don't know and not doing the due diligence that you need to do. Well, Dan, this has been awesome information. Tell our listeners how they can find and connect with you.
Yeah. So my main active platform is going to be on Instagram. So that's Danny McBrinn. I'm also on Facebook and YouTube. Same thing, Danny McBrinn. I started a YouTube channel uploading all my videos. I really don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm not a big tech savvy guy at all. So I'm just kind of winging that. But yeah, I post a lot of relevant information to mobile homes and other wholesaling stuff to that. So if anyone's listening, find me and connect me on there. And, I appreciate you guys for having me on and helping me, I guess, drop some insight here on what I'm up to these days.
Yeah, for sure. And we will put, for the listeners, we will go ahead and put all of Dan's information for his social media channels, YouTube, Instagram, so on and so forth, in the comment section. Well, not the description section, rather, below on the video. Sean, I know I cut you off.
Nope, we're fine.
All right. Sounds good. Well, Dan, thanks so much for being with us, and look forward to doing it with you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right. With that, everybody, that is our show. Make sure to join us next week. We'll see you then.
Have a good day, everyone.